Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 795, May the 28th, 2019, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I hope you all had a good Memorial Day weekend and all that sort of stuff. Now let's get back to the hard news, shall we? Okay, well, I guess most of you have heard this by now about the nationalist populist wins all across Europe in the recent EU parliamentary elections. Unbelievable. You know, it all started with Brexit, and then Trump wins, and then you get Orban winning, and you get Bolsonaro winning, and you get all these populist nationalist movements. So you see it in Austria and Germany and Poland, the former Czech republics. It's just amazing that this nationalist populist wave continues to roll like thunder, my friends, and it's going to continue. We have some snap elections coming up. I think it's going to carry over there. I think it's going to carry over into the direction things go in the UK, moving towards a real Brexit. And I think it's going to carry over into 2020. And of course, the biggest bombshell that's actually going to increase that tidal wave by mega times is going to be when the truth is revealed about what was actually done here in the United States in 2016 to orchestrate the coup against Trump. And of course there were foreign governments involved in that. This is all going to come into play. This is going to be, you know, I mean, the left is literally being destroyed. The left is being destroyed not just here in this country, but all across the world. We see it in the southern hemisphere. We see it in Europe. We see it happening everywhere. The left has finally run out of gas, my friends, and it's not going to be pretty. They are going to go down, and they are going to go down ugly. So we have Salvini, big win in Italy. Marine Le Pen, her party, big in France. We have Farage, of course, the big winner in the UK. We have Trzynski in Poland. We have the globalist elites being smashed in the EU elections all across the Eurozone. This is the beginning of the end of the EU in its present form. Hallelujah. When this is all, when the smoke finally clears and this all unravels, the EU will probably be reduced to nothing more than like a free trade zone, and that's all it's going to be. The Euro wet dream is over. Now, I imagine that Jean-Claude Juncker and all the boys over in the EU are probably freaking out right now. Freaking out. They know what's coming. They were hoping they were going to be rid of Farage. Nope, guess what? He's coming back, and he's bringing a whole bunch of Farages with him. No longer will it be just Farage pretty much battling on his own. No. He's going to have a lot of friends now in the EU Parliament. And boy, is that going to be fun to watch in the months and years to come. This is really just extraordinary. I don't know that we can actually appreciate the gravity of this as we're living through it. I think it will only be really clear to us in the rearview mirror 5, 10 years, 20 years down the road when we look back and see this extraordinary populist nationalist wave that just took over. Again, it started with Brexit, it went to Trump, and now it's like a tidal wave, and it's not slowing down. It is not slowing down. Well done. Liz Cheney. Lizard Cheney was on George Stephanopoulos' program, and even Liz Cheney says that it looks like a coup, and it could well be treason. Boy, you talk about George getting a lump in his throat. His job's getting very tough. You know, I'll tell you, I've never really been able to figure this out. For the longest time since Trump really first started running, we know the neocons hated him. We know that the good old boy club Republicans hated him, were opposed to him, were fighting him. But I was always surprised that we really never saw Dick Cheney come out and take a dig at Trump. I've never heard Cheney take a dig at Trump. And I always wonder why that was. You would have thought he would have been one of the sharpest voices against Trump. Now maybe I missed the clips, but I cannot recall, because I was waiting for Dick Cheney to come out. He would be exactly the type of person you would expect they'd put a microphone in front of him and ask him to make a bad comment about Trump, but I just never saw it. And Liz Cheney has been pretty supportive of Trump. So, and I don't think this is because the Cheneys necessarily love Trump. I don't think they actually do like him. I don't think they like his personality, but a lot of his policies they may be okay with. But I think it has a lot more to do with the fact that he is very, very popular in Wyoming. And so I think this is more about Liz Cheney and the Cheneys trying to be popular in Wyoming, where they're from, more than anything else. Being a voice of opposition to Trump in Wyoming would probably not be a very popular political stand to take, and that probably explains most of it away. But certainly got to hand it to Liz Cheney. I am not a fan of Liz Cheney by any stretch, but she defended the president. She certainly put George Stephanopoulos in his place. I think it surprised him a little bit, because I don't think he was expecting her to deliver that kind of a defense. It's probably why they had her on the program. They were probably thinking, hey, we can get Liz Cheney on. She won't go to bat for Trump. Nope, wrong. Liz Cheney absolutely took it even farther than I thought. I was really surprised me when she said, "Oh no, I think it's very likely that there could have been treason." Uh-oh. Well, we're getting more and more on this Alpha Bank story. Of course, we're finding out now that the FBI, and we knew this, that they tried to get these two FISAs early on. The first two FISAs they tried to get, we had been under the impression that one of those was rejected, the second one was approved. We weren't really sure exactly why, but now we know exactly why. It was, in fact, the Alpha Bank story. Now, what's extraordinary and extraordinarily criminal about this is here is another case, 100%, where the FBI knew that the story was bogus. They knew the story was false. It wasn't true. They investigated, said there was nothing to it, nothing there. But yet they went to the FISA court and they got the FISA on Trump Tower. Oh my goodness. So the Alpha Bank story, the FBI sought the FISA based on information from Gene Camp, someone who we've talked quite a bit about here. And they knew, the FBI knew that it had been investigated and was debunked. But they went to the FISA court anyway and got the FISA. Oh my God. That one's going to hurt. Keep in mind, this woman, Gene Camp, was the one who's an Indiana, University of Indiana professor in her day job. She's got a side business where she does IT type stuff. And she's a hardcore Hillary Clinton supporter. But we're now learning that Gene Camp had received a multi-million-dollar grant from Barack Hussein Obama. She was working on that little project to spy on Trump through her little IT firm with money she received as a result of a multi-million-dollar grant from Obama. And once she and her colleagues, her comrades, once they made this erroneous discovery of alleged communication between a server at Trump Tower and the Alpha Bank, she fed the information directly to the rotten Reverend Clinton. Then the rotten Reverend Clinton fed Camp's garbage to her attorney, Michael Sussman. That's right. Her intermediary for all things to pipeline the dossier and other information. Mr. Sussman. The rotten Reverend Clinton planned, organized, directed, and controlled the operation. It's a Clinton operation. She was running the entire damn thing behind the scenes. She used Michael Sussman to be her intermediary to pump the garbage into other intermediaries like Confusion GPS and Chrissy Steele and Blumenthal and Shearer, the Rotten Reverend Clinton was the proprietor of the information. These people were all working for her. They were all on her payroll. She was directing this entire damn thing. So she gives this information she gets from Miss Camp. She gives it to Sussman. And what does he do? He hand delivers it to General Counsel James Baker, Comey's lawyer. She also gives it over to Confusion GPS. And they hand it off to various media outlets, who then go about the business of reporting on the fake news story. And once the main story, the primary story, the first one that came out and the one that they were all pointing to for everybody to go look at was Slate.com. So Camp goes and gives this information, this erroneous information, to the Rotten Reverend Clinton. She tells her lawyer, Mr. Sussman, and he goes and gives an envelope containing discs and some other things to General Counsel Baker. That's one pipeline. Then she gives it also this information to Confusion GPS, who then hands it off to Salon.com. And then Salon.com runs the story. That, of course, as we know, right after, literally within 1 minute after the story was up on Slate.com, the Rotten Reverend Clinton tweeted it out. And then Jake Sullivan writes a campaign press statement taking the entire 2 or 3 paragraphs from the Salon.com story as a press release and puts that out. This is the same story that John Podesta actually tweeted about 2 hours before it went live, including the link to the story 2 hours before it went live. This is completely orchestrated by the Rotten Reverend Clinton. And who was it that hand-delivered the Shearer dossier into the FBI? Mr. Sussman, via General Counsel Baker. You see, the Rotten Reverend Clinton was running this entire operation. She was cultivating the garbage with her little cabal of idiots like Shearer and Blumenthal. They were taking that information, using Sussman as their intermediary for him to distribute it throughout various people like Confusion GPS directly to the FBI, over to Steele so he could put it in the Confusion GPS Clinton dossier and then turn it around and flow it back to Confusion GPS. And he also pumped it in directly to sources in the FBI from his buddy in Rome, Mr. Gaeta. He also delivered it. We had Blumenthal delivering information to Steele, which got passed through into the State Department via Mr. Weiner. All these people are working for the Rotten Reverend Clinton. Everything traces back to the Rotten Reverend. The FBI requested and got the FISA on October 21st, 2016, and they knew when they did it, it was a fraud. This is not the Carter Page FISA. This is another FISA. That's 2. They lied through their ass to get the Page FISA and now this FISA here on Trump Tower, to surveil Trump Tower, based on evidence that they knew in both cases was bullshit. My friends, these people are in a lot of trouble. And when they finally track down and sniff it out and get to the very bottom of this, and they find out where the colonel was, the person who was driving and manipulating and running this entire program, they're going to find in a very unattractive, oversized moo-moo, the Rotten Reverend. Alpha Bank's lawyers are likely moving forward now with the lawsuit against Jean Camp. Her lawyers have been put on notice. My friends, this is an area we haven't even talked about yet. In addition to all to the fact that the entire Obama legacy is going to be completely destroyed. I mean, absolutely completely destroyed. He will go to the top of the list as the worst president ever by a mile. No one will ever be close to Obama, because the peaceful transition of power that has occurred since our founding finally ended in 2016 with this plot by the rotten Reverend Clinton and her dupe, Barack Hussein Obama, who's awfully quiet these days. He's going to have to answer some questions. There's no way he's getting out of this. No way. This went all the way to the tippy top. So we talk a lot about the criminal prosecutions and indictments that are surely to come. But I'm telling you, when this thing's all, the smoke begins to clear, the civil lawsuits that are going to be laid against individuals, people in the media, politicians, the FBI, the government in general, these civil lawsuits which will be filed by Stone and Caputo and Page and Papagalopoulos and this woman Lakova, and all the people who were negatively affected by this coup and by this propaganda and by this garbage and by these lies. These people who've had their lives turned upside down are going to have major lawsuits, civil lawsuits. And Miss Camp better lawyer up, because Alpha Bank ain't happy. Man, oh man, this is so much bigger than I ever could have imagined. It's incredible. Speaking of the rotten Reverend, she was out campaigning hard yesterday. And in this very fiery campaign speech that she gave, she blamed Trump for spreading a doctored video. I don't think that video of Pelosi was doctored in the sense that they changed anything about any of the clips. All it was a bunch of clips that Pelosi put together. That's not doctoring a video. That's taking a bunch of clips and putting them together. There was nothing done to manipulate any of the individual pieces of clip that were all put together. She really is that messed up. The rotten Reverend also says that Trump is running scared. Trump running scared. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Oh, he's not scared at all. Oh, he's as happy as he's ever been, man. He right now is holding all the cards. He's holding all the cards. And he's going to drop the boom. He's going to drop it all on you folks. Yes, he is. The rotten Reverend Clinton says that only she and the Dems can restore the rule of law. They just tried to orchestrate a coup. Oh, wait till all the crimes that they've been involved in with their friends in the media and Democrats and some Republicans, Mr. Magoo. Wait till that all comes out. Boy, oh boy. She says only Democrats can protect the Constitution. They just shredded the Constitution. Ended the first peaceful transition of power in this country's history. And she says that we must hold Trump and his cronies responsible. Well, I'll tell you what, you are the crony's crony, Reverend. And my suggestion is you better start worrying about your own legal issues that you're going to have coming down the road here in the not-too-distant future, because I do believe she's going to be indicted. But your cronies, Mr. Shearer, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Steele, probably Mr. Halper, Mr. Misfid, Glenn Simpson, and your buddies over there at the CIA and FBI, you're the cronies, and you're going to be exposed as such. And every one of these words, you're going to eat them all in one big gulp. By the way, the rotten Reverend Clinton has every intention of running. Every intention. That was the campaign speech she gave yesterday. I've seen a bunch of them. That was a campaign speech. She's gonna let Crazy Uncle Joe run his course, and eventually the hard left is just going to destroy Crazy Uncle Joe, along with the problems he's got in Ukraine and China and everything else. The fact that he's a self-destructive individual anyway by being the gaffe master. By the time September rolls around, Biden is going to be literally beat to a bloody pulp. And it's about that time that the Rotten Reverend Clinton is going to sashay in from stage left, probably in her crazy moo-moo, and she's going to take the mantle. Now, what's going to be really funny about that is it will probably work, and then she will be essentially the de facto Democrat nominee. But what will probably happen within 6 months after that, or probably sometime before 2020, is the indictments, the investigation will finally reach the point where the indictments are coming down, and she will probably be facing indictments on multiple counts over a wide range of crimes. The probably most serious of which will be her role in being the orchestrator of the coup. We keep hearing this nonsense from the left-wing media about how Trump and Barr are going to destroy the CIA and the FBI by revealing sources and methods. Well, let me tell you what, when it comes to revealing sources and methods, when the intelligence community and the law enforcement agency, most powerful in the world, the FBI, along with the Department of Justice and others, collaborate and collude together to orchestrate a coup on the opposing political candidate during an election, that takes precedent over anything else. And if you have to reveal some sources, especially when these are not sources who are working to defend us from terrorists or anything else, these so-called sources were hatchet men who were agent provocateurs who were put in to run entrapment schemes on innocent people. These weren't serious intelligence people doing good work to keep the country safe. They were a bunch of hacks trying to rig an election first and then overturn the election when that didn't work. That's the sources you're talking about? The fat man? Mr. Halper? Mr. Mifsud? Down the hatch downer? I don't think so, Mr. Potato Head. And as far as your methods, what? The method of running a coup in your own country? No, we know the CIA runs coups. They've been doing it since their inception. They just usually don't do it in the damn country. The last time they did it was 1963, and they got away with it then. Not this time. Not this time, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Potato Head. Not going to work. You're toast. You are toast, Mr. Potato Head. And there's nothing particularly modern or new or secret about running agent provocateurs to a target and running a frame-up on him, Mr. Potato Head. Every intelligence agency has been doing that since the dawn of man. There's no source or method that's going to be revealed, even if they revealed everything. There's nothing here. Everything that happened here was a method that's very typical, used all over the world, and has been for many, 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 many millenniums. Since the dawn of man, really, since governments have been around. They've been running these types of frame-up operations on their political enemies. It's just usually, it's foreign political enemies. They just usually don't do it on their own country, Mr. Potato Head. Mainly because of the risk involved. If you aim for the king's head and you miss, you're probably going to be Mr. Potato Head. And that's where you are going to end up. You're going to end up being completely Mr. Potato Head. Sources and methods. These people are nuts. Well, what do you say we take a look at that dumbass of the week? Man, there's so many good contestants every week. I don't know how we can all choose. My pick this week, I had to go with Pelosi. I mean, it was a tough call. Very, very tough call, man. It was just really hard. But I just thought that for just a purely dumbass move, by Pelosi to go out and make that statement about Trump covering up when in fact there is no crime. He's been cleared of any crime, yet she's still out there saying he's involved in a cover-up and that we may have to do impeachment and all this kind of stuff. And then you want to go to have a meeting with him an hour later? Nobody in their right mind would negotiate with someone after they just went out and said, well, you're a criminal and you're involved in a cover-up. Hey, now let's negotiate. I don't think so. That's not how normal people operate. But that's what Pelosi did. And that's why she was my pick for Dumbass of the Week. And a very, very difficult choice. Jonathan. His picks, Pelosi, Dan Coates, and Mr. Potato Head. John R. He went with Mr. Potato Head. Bird. He wants the whole deep state. Yeah. Yes, Bird, the whole deep state. Could be Dumbass of the Week. Sane environmentalist. The mainstream media. Oh, yeah. And believe me, folks, they're not going to escape this thing unscathed. And if it can be proven that they knowingly cooperated in this conspiracy, there's criminal liability. But these networks and these so-called reporters, they're ruined. Thank you, sane environmentalists, for pointing that out. Walker on the Hill. He went with the pencil neck geek, the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff. Patty, she agreed, Adam Schiff. Patty's usually right. Amy, she went with Schiff, Pelosi, and turn in your guns, Mr. and Mrs. America, Feinstein. Oh, yes. She certainly would have been number 2 or number 3 pick for me this week. She's got a lot of problems as well. Most of them mental. Jeanette, Feinstein, the unwitting idiot, Clapper, and Mr. Potato Head. Susan, turn in your guns, Mr. and Mrs. America, Feinstein. Jamie, the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff, and Mr. Potato Head. Joey D. Joey D went with Jeff Bridges. Wasn't he the guy from Dumb and Dumber? He's not only dumb, dumber, but he is dumbest. I saw that little clip. He's a nut. He's crazy. And I didn't appreciate that slight about those of us who live in flyover country, Jeff. Why don't you come down here to flyover country, Jeff, and walk in one of these this little redneck bar about 1,000 feet, 10,000 feet from my house down here. Walk in there and talk about flyover country and make that comment and see how things turn out for you, Jeff. You'll walk out of there toothless, toothlesser, and more toothless. T.W. Wintex, Mr. Potato Head. Gordon. Yes, Gordon. Nice link, Gordon. Appreciate it. Madam Botox. And Jerry Nadler. I wonder if he's recovered from his stroke yet. That's the Trump curse. I wouldn't advise you to go after... Trump's been beating Nadler in New York for decades and decades and decades. Now his son is caught up in some legal jeopardy. And it looks like old Jerry the Penguin, might be headed to the promised land much sooner than he thought. And if he keeps screwing with Trump, he's going to find the Trump curse is fatal. Ask Mr. Magoo. Freddie went with Madam Botox. Pelosi. Larry, my man, Larry, the remarkable musician. Check out his stuff. Click on Larry's name and check out his YouTubes. Larry went with Mr. Potato Head. General Counsel Baker, who's definitely got a lot of problems, most of them criminal, along with the dishonorable former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, James Comey, who's definitely going to prison. Definitely going to prison. Peter. Yes, that's right. Our good friend holding down the fort in the Great White North. He went with Madam Botox. That's a winning pick this week, Peter. Mr. Potato Head and Ocasio-Cortez. Looks like Gene went with Haywood Gilliam. I believe he is the judge who put the kibosh on Trump's border wall building in a certain area, but I don't think he's going to last very long. I think he'll be overturned. But nice, Gene. I appreciate you reminding us of that fact. For those of you who might be having a chance to vote for this idiot, don't. His second pick was for Madame Botox. Well done, Gene. I think you're in the right, you're in the kill zone there. And then, of course, we had Gillette for that ridiculous transgender ad. That is the most ridiculous and, quite honestly, disturbing thing I think I've seen. Gillette, what the world is going on with that company? Whew. And finally, we have Dennis. He went with Mr. Potato Head John Brennan. Always a good choice. So when we tally it all up, it looks like we have to award the Dumbass of the Week. Again, it's a dead even tie. Man, we're having a lot of ties lately. Tying for first place this week for Dumbass of the Week, we have Madame Botox and Mr. Potato Head. They make a lovely pair, do they not? Yes, they are quite the pair. Pelosi and Brennan, Dumbasses of the Week. Co-Dumbasses of the Week, I guess you could say. Coming in a very close second, the Pencil Neck Geek, the Bug-Eyed Fool, Adam Schiff for Brains. And rounding up in third place, a well-deserving Diane Turning Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, who needs to be investigated for her way too much Chinese things going on around her, if you know what I mean. There you go, my friends. TowerGate Day number 795 in the books. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See ya. Bye.